Hello and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is a rainy Thursday, February 9th, 2023. And today we're going to be talking about our favorite places, restaurants new and restaurants old, bars new and bars old favorites. And to do that, Randy Walker, otherwise known as Engineer Randy. Randy, it is so good to talk to you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jer, and excited to talk to you about food.
We have this long list. One could say that if we were eating out, we basically bought the bar with topics we need to talk about.
We have a whole menu of topics to discuss.
Double-sided, folded out, even though really I'm not into those fold-out menu places, but this is kind of what we got, so we're going to try to go through it as fast as we can, but also we want to share all the details. We want to be thorough, but not waste your time. You know what I mean?
Sweet and simple.
Okay, so first up is one that you and I went to together, Eastern Palace Club. Now, you and I went to the grand opening or first night or whatever, and then you went ahead and went back. I have some first thoughts. I know you have some first thoughts. My first thought is that I think it's the first bar that I've ever been to that is tiki adjacent.
Yeah, this is more of like a resort bar, like if you're at a getaway on the beach, and this is kind of like the bar that would be there alongside the pool.
Yeah, the flag outside, I think even referred to Key West.
Yeah, they bill themselves as the northernmost point of Key West.
So this place is on John R., just south of 9 Mile in Hazel Park, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about. It is an expansive floor plan.
Yeah, this place used to be a banquet hall, so it is quite expansive. They even have some of it blocked off still, so I'm not sure if they're planning on using it for private events or just private use internally, but this is a really big space.
And in there, there's also like a food joint, right? You got to try that before I got there.
Yeah, Smoked Lotus Barbecue is operating inside of Eastern Palace Club.
Okay. Now, let's kind of take a look at the vibe and everything else. Now, this place just opened, so I call this a first look. This is not a full review. We don't judge as stringently with places that just open because they're still getting their feet wet. They're getting their sea legs, to use kind of a seafaring term with the Key West. So we really look at the vibe. We look at the potential. And I think that there is a lot of potential with this place. It was packed when I went and people were having a good time. The booths had like a thatched hut feel to them, which I appreciate. I love the lobby entrance. There's an area outside to, enjoy outside and have like a little bit of a cocktail. Now, of course, it was winter, so it was not as optimal as it would be. And I also think that it is approachable enough to be good as a neighborhood joint. Like if you live in the area, it's something to really enjoy.
Absolutely. They have the pool table there. They have the skee ball machine. They have the internet jukebox. So it has definitely got those neighborhood bar vibes.
Right, but a little bit bigger than you'd normally think for a neighborhood bar, right? So that's why I would put it in more of a destination place. Because, again, I don't know that many places that are truly Key West themed.
Yeah, this is great. The grass thatching over the bar. They've got the little cabanas surrounding the booths. It's a vibe for sure.
Okay, so with the drinks, what is kind of their thought with their program? Now, I understand they do both alcoholic and mocktails, and one of the owners, I understand, does not partake, and so they've really leaned a bit into the mocktails as well, so you can kind of pick your lane.
The cocktail menu is 2 pages, and like you said, there are several listed in the non-alcoholic drink section as well. The front page has some rums, including a rum bucket, and then the back page has margaritas and then canned drinks like beer and things like that.
Right, so you can kind of pick the way. Now, what were your thoughts on some of the cocktails? I feel like they were starting to get there.
Yeah, they were a little rough opening day, but I have been back a second time, and the cocktails have definitely improved. They're working on them. The ingredients were solid. It's just putting them together that needed a little bit of work, and they are working on that for sure. So I would definitely recommend a cocktail.
What's one that you liked?
Oh, one that I liked. I'm a fan of rum, so I stick mostly to the rum cocktails. They have their version of a Mai Tai called the High Tide, and the Nui Nui was a great cocktail as well.
What makes the High Tide a little bit different? Because I'm a Mai Tai guy. I enjoy a good Mai Tai. I'm almost a little nervous when people mess with it.
They did have their own twist on it. They are using Grand Marnier instead of Cointreau, so it is a little bit sweeter.
Okay. I think a lot of people will find that attractive, though.
For sure. And then the variety of rums they use is unique, and every bar tries to put their own spin on it by the choice of rums that they put into their drink.
Fair. Randy, there have been a few times we have been to places and they'll say they have it all. They have all the spirits, and then maybe they'll have 2 rums. Because, rum gets the short shrift all the time.
Absolutely. I like that Eastern Palace Club is focusing on their rum. My favorite, Lost River, has probably the biggest selection of rum in the state, or if not close to. But then we went to HopCat for their opening.
Yes.
And they had some great cocktails on the menu, but their rum list was Bacardi and Captain Morgan.
Well, let's then pivot and talk about HopCat then. That is new in Royal Oak, open as we are recording this. We went to kind of the preview, if you will, the weekend before opening, and got to take a look at this massive space, 11,000 square feet. I learned later that there are 2 kitchens, one for in-dining, one for carry-out. Like crazy sizes here. You've got a whole row. I think it was, what did they say, Randy? Like 3 different businesses that used to be there?
Yeah, that replaces 3 storefronts that were on Main Street there in downtown Royal Oak.
Yeah, I had trouble remembering which door to go into to get in, but there were those large garage doors that open up to Main Street, which I think in warmer weather, when they can activate those, I think that's going to be a big plus for it. This is the thing with HopCat. HopCat is a well-known quantity. So you kind of judge HopCat against itself, because if you like HopCat, I feel like this is HopCat on steroids. So with these kind of like almost chains, because I also have learned that they're going to be opening up one in Livonia at a former Irish pub over on Haggerty. So they're back in expansion mode with Barfly Ventures. So I feel like with these kind of places, you kind of got to rate HopCat against HopCat because it's a known quantity, right? Like, you know what the Cosmic Fries are. Like, if you're a Michigander and have been around a while, you know their big focus is beer, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you go to HopCat, you get a burger, you get a beer. You might try one of the cocktails. I recommend the cucumber cooler. I don't want to say it, but you've been to one HopCat, you've been to them all. Except now, this Royal Oak location is doing something unique amongst the HopCat locations.
What is that?
They are actually going to do brunch 7 days a week.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Detroit's been upping their brunch game. Seems like Royal Oak's upping it. We didn't see any of that on the menu. So that's something they shared with you, huh?
Yeah, they shared that with us, that it will be launching soon. But that is an interesting tactic. I don't know that I've ever even craved brunch on a Wednesday. So we'll see how it works out for them.
But you know what? There are college kids around there. There's more workers in there. I could see something where if you've got a different schedule or you want to do something, that could be up. I mean, obviously, the majority of their brunch is going to be on the weekends.
I definitely applaud them for trying this. I'm always up for new ideas in the dining scene.
Yeah, I would say that the cocktail that I enjoyed was the Crusta, and that is a bourbon cocktail, a little bit on the sweeter side, but I still think pretty good, with Luxardo maraschino liqueur, simple syrup, fresh lemon juice, and Angostura. So like a pretty straightforward cocktail that I would probably make out of my home bar, but a pretty good cocktail to have. And, the prices aren't insane here, right? There's been this thing where cocktails go up above 15 and whatever, and most of these cocktails are more in like the 10, 11, 12 range.
Yeah, these are great cocktail prices. They're not craft cocktails by any sense of the imagination, but they're definitely a step up from a Jack and Coke for sure.
And we'll talk about more of the dive bar bit in a little bit. So when it comes to HopCat, what were kind of your thoughts about the food? I felt like the Cosmic Fries were Cosmic Fries. I felt like the burger was the HopCat. It's very familiar. So if you're into that vibe, HopCat's always kind of leaned more on like the jalapenos and things like that. So that's what they do. And as I said, like I judge it against itself. And if you're looking for HopCat, it is very HopCat-y.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many restaurants don't even get fries down. So hats off to them for at least having crispy seasoned fries with those Cosmic Fries. And then we tried the elote queso dip.
Oh, yeah.
And that was probably the favorite thing I had all night.
100%. Like if that's the thing that you want to expand your horizons on, they actually did a really good job with that one. It had a little bit of kick to it. It had different textures. I feel like that was, for me, the surprise winner of the night.
Highly recommend that.
And I assume they're going to be open all kinds of hours because it's HopCat and they've got a lot of seats to fill. Now, speaking of the dive bar drink, we went to LJ's Sweetheart Lounge, a long-time Detroit dive bar institution in Corktown, a place where the rest of Corktown people may say the prices are going up and whatever, but I tell you, you can get in there and get your $5 or $6 drink, be good to go in the unchanged confines since the Carter administration. That is LJ's Lounge. Now, it recently got the Sweetheart added to it in the last few years because of a remembrance. But those of us who've been around, we know it as LJ's Lounge. And I mention it because, one, I realize that we have listeners who may not have met this place. Two, this was your first journey into this spot.
Yeah, I was surprised to find out where it was because I've been to Sugar House and Ema plenty of times right there on Michigan at the corner of Wabash, and I never really noticed LJ's before.
Well, in good dive bar tradition, sometimes the sign isn't on.
And it wasn't on the night we visited. But
No, it was not. But there were people in there, and I was like, it's going. I know it's going. And it was a warm Portland storm.
yeah, and we had a couple of canned seltzers for $6 a piece. That's definitely a sweet spot for drinks, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. It's all about the vibe you're looking for, right? And I think if you're going for that more neighborhoody vibe, I think that it's a great one. And also, it's a place that sometimes if you're waiting for a table somewhere else, you can go in there, get served real quick. It's no frills. There's no extra food. The food's in the vending machine. It's not pretentious in any way. And I kind of love that. It gives me like warm feels of bars of Detroit yesteryear back drinking in my 20s.
I could definitely see using it as a waiting room for Ema or Slows or Grandma Bob's or even Sugar House, but I would definitely head there as a destination on its own too.
Right. I mean, there's just so much history. In fact, I posted up on Instagram. They had one of the signs. Now, I'm not going to endorse O'Doul's, but it was an O'Doul sign that had the old Tigers logo from like the 80s. The one with the circle where the tiger like came through it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like that is some retro goodness I am all about. And so, it hits that thing where it's like a dive bar, but like they kept the place clean and all that. So, it's all good in my book. I just want more people to know about it, make sure that it's patronized because, there's so many other options and you might need to peer in the window. But I think that's kind of the joy of Detroit. Like Detroit is a place where you kind of need to know where to go. Now, Randy, we don't eat everywhere together, despite rumors to the contrary. And you have seen a couple of places, both that I have heard of, both that I have wanted to try, and both that I'm jealous that you've had the chance to. So let's talk about your adventure to Lincoln Park.
Yeah, lately I have been going to the Meijer on Dix and Lincoln Park, and just down the street on the corner of Goddard and Dix is a place called Taqueria Los Charros. And I had some friends recommend it a few times, so I figured I would stop in there for lunch and check it out. And it was great. I will definitely go back.
Really? I mean, I have a couple of notes. Number one, I know somebody who used to go to a strip club that used to be Chicks on Dicks, which was one of the best rhyming alliterations you're going to have in this region of ours. Two, Meijer down Lincoln Park. You live in the city, sir.
I do, and I will definitely hit up Rivertown Market after work on my way home, but it's the next closest, nicest Meijer.
So 8 Mile doesn't do it for you?
I lived in Ferndale for years and hate the 8 Mile Meijer with a passion.
Huh. I've heard that many a times. It's usually the lines, right?
It's the lines and it's the lack of product on store shelves.
Oh, really? So you feel like that one downriver serves you better?
Absolutely. And it is a renovated Meijer, so it's the latest store layout and styling as well.
All right, well, let's get back to the food.
I tried a dinner plate with their birria and al pastor and kind of built my own little tacos there. The meat was delicious. Came with guacamole, beans, and rice. And I'm not a huge beans fan or a rice fan, but those beans, I ate them all. They had great flavor.
Really? So you usually pass on those. That's interesting to me.
It's usually a texture thing for me on beans, but I overcame my difficulty with the bean texture and ate the whole portion.
Are you one of those people who doesn't eat cottage cheese either?
Oh, I love cottage cheese.
Huh.
It's something about beans and lentils where no matter how smooth it is, it still has that little bit of graininess to it that I usually don't enjoy. But the flavor of these beans made up for the texture in my book.
Really? So what's the size and vibe of this place?
It is I want to say, fairly standard Mexican feeling restaurant. If you've been in a restaurant in Southwest, it had kind of the same vibe, the yellow and bright colors. And then it was fairly large. There was a party in the back. I sat at the bar because I was by myself. There were plenty of tables, ample parking. It was easy to get to and plenty spacious. I didn't have to wait for a seat at all.
And that's the thing is like there's so much in Metro Detroit to try. Like maybe people wouldn't think that you'd shoot down to Lincoln Park from the east side of Detroit where you are, but it really wasn't that big of a thing for you, was it?
20-minute drive, I think.
All right. Well, you now make me want to go to it even more, and I will have to check it out on the list. I mean, and I've mentioned this before in the newsletter and things. A lot of those Mexican restaurants, they're starting to move from Southwest Detroit or expand locations into Lincoln Park and downriver as that population starts to kind of, I mean, I hate to say it, migrate from the city, but that is exactly what's happening. And so you kind of got to track where the food is, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense.
The other one that you went to on the east side is an Indian place, and I have driven by it a bunch of times because I often frequent the east side, but I have not stepped in. Should I step in?
Yes, I went to Noorjahan on Mac in Grosse Park, and it was also great. I highly recommend that one as well.
All right, what's the standout?
I had the lamb Rogan Josh. I usually go with butter chicken.
I thought it was Joe Rogan, not Josh Rogan.
But the lamb Rogan Josh, which is lamb stewed in chilies and peppers and onions, it's kind of my fallback when I am not in the mood for butter chicken. And it was great. I ordered it medium spicy. It was almost borderline too spicy for me, for my palate, but they got it just right. I had it with some garlic naan. It was fabulous. Even had the leftovers for lunch the next day at work.
Okay, how's the naan?
The naan was great. Very potent garlic flavor, but I like that. You're selling garlic naan. Make it taste like garlic.
Now, I am curious because butter chicken is also my go-to. So I am very curious about this. I'm excited about it. Where is this location exactly?
This is on Mac, almost the Caju. So Grosse Park, just across the street from East English Village. So on the border.
Okay.
If you've come to Staples, you've gone too far.
Well, let me say, when you mention on the border, I've had so many not great experience at on the border. The chain. I think there's like one or two left around here.
I haven't been to an on the border in quite some time. I do believe there was one in Auburn Hills when I lived up by the mall.
You're not missing anything. Anyway, let's make sure to check out Noorjahan.
And they were super friendly. I got there about 20 minutes after 7. They closed at 8. They were happy to seat me. I dined in, was still out by 8, so the service was fast too.
Well, yeah. I mean, as always, I don't ever like to have people stay over for me. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm coming in real late, I generally do takeout because I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, it seems like you were in, out, handled it great. And I'm excited to try that one too. I've heard good things from so many people. So when I hear it from you, I believe it just a little bit more.
I asked if it was okay to still dine in. If not, I would have grabbed it to go. But they said there was plenty of time to dine in. So I did. They were super friendly the whole time.
And pricing fair?
Pricing was fine. I think it was $15 for the entree, $4 for an order of garlic naan. I got 2 orders of garlic naan. So reasonable for sure.
All right. All right. So there's a couple of food related news items or things that are coming up that I want to talk about. First off, it looks like we have an entrant in the Great Food Truck Race. What is the tea, Randy?
A few days ago on Instagram, Detroit posted on their Instagram that they were competing in a food truck competition. They didn't name names, but I have seen some follow-up posts around the internet from people who have shown up to taste at the food truck events, and Tyler Florence was there, so that can only be the Great Food Truck Race.
Oh, come on. You don't think that Tyler Florence is a dead giveaway of what show it is? I mean, obviously they had to be like coy about it, but I see a picture and you can go to the Detroit Instagram. They check in Los Angeles, and this food truck, I know that like you got to win and all that other stuff, but this looks good. And I'd love to see this on the streets of Detroit. This is one of those places where it's been on my list to go and it just hasn't lined up. I think that's the same for you, right?
I haven't made it. They operate frequently out of Now, the place that was the former EMA across the street from the current EMA there on Michigan Avenue as well. But yeah, I just haven't had a chance to try their food yet, and I'm excited to. And hopefully they do well in this competition.
Right. It'll take a while for them to come back, but I am excited about this. And I'm always glad to see Detroit and Metro Detroit people making us proud on the television, you know?
Yeah. The last 2 seasons of this show aired in June, so we might have a few months to wait before we find out how they did.
Now, I think we have differing opinions on this. I actually am kind of addicted to the Great Food Truck Race. Like, it's the kind of thing where I literally binge watch like 3 seasons in a row. But I know that it's a little bit showy and there's things missing. I also feel like over the years, it's gotten less and less showing like how the food truck operations work and gets more and more into like the competition part.
Yeah, this is 100% reality TV drivel at this point, sadly. I think even last season it got real bad. They had a team that felt like they were going to be the winners from the get-go, and when they started slacking off and got reprimanded by Tyler, you just lost all credibility for the show because they still won. They didn't know how to cook. They were just throwing prepackaged stuff together, charging outrageous prices, and It was just not about running or operating a food truck or even about cooking at all.
It was gaming the game.
It was gaming the game, and the show was more about entertainment and drama than about food.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be a level of entertainment and drama. It's television, right? But it's about working that balance.
And this show has not had that balance in a few seasons, I feel like.
Well, I hope that's not the case this time. But I mean, regardless, I'm watching it because I'm sucked in. And I hear all of your complaints. They are noted, they are filed, and I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and best of luck to the Kana team.
Oh, for 100%, 100%. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Punchki Day is coming. And I know Punchkis aren't your jam as much, pun kind of intended. And we'll talk more about like places to go. And if people want to send in their recommendations, that would be dailydetroit@gmail.com. I think there's going to be a lot of different entrants this year. Last year, Cheyenne and I waited like 3 hours in line in Hamtramck for our Punchkis.
I have definitely waited in the Punchki line myself in, I think it was, New Palace in Hamtramck, and that was a whole ordeal. So it kind of soured me on the whole waiting in line thing. I will eat Punchkis. I will not wait in line for them anymore.
See, for me, a little bit of line is fun. I enjoyed meeting a lot of people. I met some listeners in line, which was absolutely crazy. And if you're still listening, thank you. It's good to talk to you. But the 2-3 hours was just too much. Like I could deal with like a 15-20 minute wait, but it was like down the block. And yeah, so I'm looking at different ideas for Punchki. I've got a few different, nominations I've heard from family, but I'd love to hear yours. dailydetroit@gmail.com. I feel like we need to do a Punchki preview episode just devoted to that. We can't shove that into today's show.
Jared, like I said, I'm not a fan of waiting in line for Punchkis, but I will definitely eat them. And my favorites are probably the berry-filled, raspberry, or even cherry, but definitely not blueberry.
Longtime listeners will know that Randy single-handedly tanked a tasting of Hudsonville ice cream because it was blueberry flavored, because he has that much animus towards the blueberry. I have considered dropping off boxes of blueberries at your apartment, sir. Just wake up, there's a wall of blueberries.
They would definitely not be eaten by me.
I'm down with the raspberry as well. And raspberry's hard to pull off. Raspberry, there's a few problems with it. And I learned this actually from a soft serve ice cream parlor owner. This is fascinating to me. I did not realize that, number one, raspberries are not as shelf stable as other berries. And number two, their costs are higher. And so real raspberries are actually hard to come by and often may cost a little bit of a premium because they're a much more fragile fruit and they don't really ripen off of the plant. So your window is very limited and it's kind of a niche thing. But raspberry is bar none my favorite berry fruit.
Sounds like we have a team favorite.
All right, Randy Walker, Engineer Randy, it is so good to talk to you on the microphone for once.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I'll be back for sure whenever there's something new and interesting to talk about in the world of food.
For sure, and drink, because I'm sure we're going to have some tastings of various kinds of sodas and canned cocktails and all those kind of things coming up in 2023.
Sounds great to me.
Well, with that, I am Jer Stays. As I said, dailydetroit@gmail.com with any feedback that you've got. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around town.